Are you all good to go, Debbie?
Yes.
Okay, great. All right, well, this is docket 4348 DR 100, the petition of Oconto Electric Cooperative for a declaratory ruling regarding the right to supply energy to new customers. This is Mike Newmark, the administrative law judge for the PSC, and we're on Zoom. This is a public and party hearing, so we will have evidence entered from parties. I don't believe we have anything from commission staff. And we'll also take public comment if there are any members of the public in attendance. And actually, let's start off with the public comments just to meet that requirement. So I do not see any members of the public on our list of participants. So I can say that we have no public comments to receive at this time. We can check back at the end in case someone does join us by then. And it's my understanding that there are no written comments no written comments have been received at the moment. We will continue to accept written comments up until this Friday, June 9th, by either the commission's website or by US mail. So, and we'll have to double check and make sure we're watching the right docket number on those envelopes, because I just see on the notice we have the wrong one on the notice. So these things happen. So, okay, so let's have appearances from the parties. I have our service list. I'll just display that on the screen. So let's start with Oconto Electric Cooperative, who's representing the cooperative today.
Morning, Oconto Electric Cooperative appears by attorney James Woywood.
Okay, and commission staff.
Sophia Rogers.
And Wisconsin Public Service Corporation.
Good morning, Your Honor. This is Lauren Zank of Quarles and Brady on behalf of WPSC. Also in the room with me on behalf of WPSC are attorneys James Goldschmidt and Kate Phillips.
Okay, great. And just checking, is our service list complete the way it stands now? Any other changes need to be made?
Not from our end, Your Honor.
Okay, anybody else, any issues?
Not for us.
No, okay, all right. So we can remove those things from the screen share. Any preliminary matters we should be handling before we begin?
Yes, Your Honor. And if we want to get into the offered evidence list first, that's fine. But I do believe that Attorney Woywood and I have a stipulation to enter.
Okay, well, why don't we start with that? I'll turn off the screen. Well, do you think I'll need the screen share, display anything?
I suppose it would actually make sense if you leave it, because I have a clarifying question
Okay,
that relates to this.
Okay, great. Yeah, well, why don't you start with the stipulation then?
Okay, so, well, and I guess for my question, it's whether the stipulated facts are already part of the record or whether we can enter them into this offered evidence list, because Attorney Woywood and I would like to modify a couple of those facts.
Okay. Yeah, so I don't think I put this in your version, the version of the offered evidence list I shared, but then I realized we needed it. So I did add a stipulated, a row of stipulated evidence. But if we need to change that, that's fine. So go ahead with what what changes are necessary.
Thank you, Your Honor. So as part of this stipulation that we are agreeing to modify two portions, they are stipulated facts, paragraphs 11 and 12. In exchange for these modifications, it's our understanding that Oconto Electric does not have cross for Mr. Nimmer and will allow us to enter his testimony by affidavit, and if you agree, release him.
Okay. I think that's fine. I'll just, so it's the stipulation, it's the paragraphs 11 and 12, is that?
That's correct, Your Honor. So specifically in paragraph 11, the reference to 71 storage condominium units should be changed to 81 units. And in paragraph 12, the reference to 21 units should be changed to 44 units.
Okay. Anything else on this document?
No,
Nothing
Your Honor.
else.
Okay. And anything else for the stipulation that we need to change?
No, Your Honor.
No, okay. All right. So that's fine. How about commission staff? Any opinions on the stipulation?
No objection to that change.
Okay. And just curious, were you made aware of the stipulation before the hearing?
I was not made aware, unless there was an outbound, no. But that's fine. It's not of concern to commission staff.
Okay, yeah, I would just say in the future, you'd want to loop commission staff into any of these kind of procedural questions. I know it's probably not an issue in this case. It's not really, commission staff isn't really being very active here, but we end up being the arbiter of information when it comes time for discussing this with the commission. So let's just make sure we loop commission staff in the future. Okay, so we have. So what we'll need to do is have a refile of the stipulated facts with those corrections, just so we don't get confused by looking at when someone picks up the document and is just looking at out of context. They won't have the benefit of the transcript with those numbers, new numbers. So I'm just going to note that here, so we can go off the record. Okay. Okay, so before we move forward, and we can stay off the record for this, any corrections or modifications we need to make to the offered evidence list?
OEC did not identify any.
Not from WPOC, Your Honor.
Okay. All right, so are there witnesses then we can excuse and file by affidavit? I think we have witness Nimmer. Is that now the result of the stipulation? Anyone else that we're waiving questions for? No? Okay.
No.
So let's get on the record then. So we've discussed the offered evidence list. There are no corrections or additions to the list in terms of existing filings. We did hear, of course, on the record, the stipulation, a modification to the stipulated facts, and we'll just need a refiling of that document reflecting the corrections. And I suppose whoever filed it first, the first iteration of that should do the refile. And as a result of that change in facts, witness Nimmer for pub service can be excused, and we will expect verification of that testimony by affidavit. And so at this point, I think we can take our first witness. So we'll start with Oconto. Why don't we go ahead and proceed?
Thank you. At this time, Oconto Electric Cooperative called Byron Nolde.
Okay, sir, I'm going to ask you to raise your right hand. I'll swear you in. Do you swear or affirm, tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? Okay, no, we're not hearing you at all. Okay, let's go off the record.
I do.
Okay, yeah, we can hear that. Okay, you want to get that phone close to you. Why don't you just pick it up?
Okay. I'll be.
Can you just
leaning
put it in
down
your
now.
hand, the phone?
Oh, I'm sorry.
Can you
I
can you
do.
just put your hand, your phone in your hand and speak into it? I think that may be what we need.
I'll take you off speaker then.
Sure, that's fine. Yeah, just put it up to your ear. Yeah, okay.
Now, can you hear me better?
Oh, there you go. Perfect. Yes, great. Okay,
Okay.
so you're sworn in. I saw that. So why don't we go ahead?
Mr. Nolde, did you cause to be filed direct testimony labeled direct OEC Nolde, as well as an exhibit labeled exhibit OEC Nolde 1 and rebuttal testimony labeled rebuttal OEC Nolde?
I did.
And if you were asked the questions in that testimony today, would you respond the same way as you did in the testimony?
It would be the same.
I have no other questions for Mr. Nolde. He's available for cross-examination.
All right, let's have cross.
Thank you, Your Honor. Good morning, Mr. Nolde. My name is Lauren Zenk. I represent WPSC in this matter, and I do have some questions for you. Do you have your testimony in front of you?
I got it. I can take it out then. Okay, go ahead.
Okay, and for your
I
reference,
didn't know
we're
if I
gonna-
could have it or not, so, okay. So that makes a difference.
Yep, we're going to be starting with your direct testimony. So let me know when you're on page 3 of your direct.
And I also can put it on the screen.
Okay, if you can do that, that would be nice. Okay, I'm looking at it on the screen. I'll read it from there.
Okay,
If
great.
that's
And then
okay.
I am looking at lines 1 to 5. So in this
Okay.
testimony, you state that you became familiar with the 2004 amendment in 2004. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay. And I may refer to this simply as the agreement. So just so you
Okay.
know, the 2004 amendment or agreement, I may use interchangeably. Mr. Nolde, is it correct that Oconto Electric filed a petition for a declaratory ruling that initiated this action in 2020?
In 2020? That sounds right, yes. Took a lot longer than I thought, so.
Between entering the agreement in 2004 and filing this action in 2020, did Oconto Electric ever challenge how WPSC enforced the agreement?
Say that again, please.
Between executing the agreement in 2004 and filing this
Okay.
action in 2020, did Oconto Electric ever challenge how WPSC enforced the agreement?
Regarding this current property?
Regarding this
Versailles,
property
Sharon Versailles? No,
and regarding any other properties subject to the agreement?
no.
In that same time period, 2004 to 2020, were you involved in enforcing the agreement in any way?
No, I was hired to come into Oconto Electric in 2003 is when I was hired. And therefore, you know, what happened between 2004 and that, I was not involved with any of that. After I was hired in September of 2003.
Okay, so just to make sure I'm understanding that time period then, between 2004 and 2020, you were still at Oconto Electric then, correct?
I did, what'd you say? Go ahead, say it again.
You said you were hired in 2003, correct?
Correct, as your CEO, correct.
So in 2004 and 2020, in that time period, did you stay employed with Oconto Electric?
I came to Oconto Electric in September of 2003. I was not employed at Oconto Electric prior to that.
And you haven't left since, correct?
Correct.
Okay, so during the time period of 2004 to 2020, were you ever involved in enforcing the agreement?
Between 2003 to 2004.
I'm gonna stop
Al
you there.
Herman,
Yeah, off the record for a second. Let me just clarify. I think the time frame that we're asking about that's being asked of you is between 2004 and 2020. So the time frame going forward from 2004
okay.
through 2020.
Your Honor, if I may
Yeah.
interject, I guess I would just object to the use of the word enforce in this instance, and this might be some of the cause of confusion here. Under the statute, the commission shall enforce an agreement. not a CEO of an electric cooperative or any other utility. So, you know, I would note that objection, and perhaps if it's rephrased, there might be less confusion.
Okay, well, for future questions, feel free to object. And just interrupt with your objection while we're on the record. I guess if Attorney Zink, if you could clarify.
I
go
can
ahead.
rephrase, Your Honor.
If you want to re-ask, if we want to just have that question read back, we can go through the objection on the record. It's either way. It's fine with me.
And I can just rephrase since there's some confusion.
Okay, all right. Yeah, so if you're having, well, let's just leave it at that for now. So let's just treat this like a trial. So, all right, let's get back on the record. Go ahead, with Attorney Zink.
Mr. Nolde, between 2004 and when Oconto Electric filed this action in 2020, were you ever involved in seeking to enforce the agreement between WPSC and Oconto Electric?
There was nothing during that time that we enforced, but we had in 2004 an addendum to the agreement, basically.
Okay, so still talking about that same time period between 2004 and 2020, did you ever, I understand that you reviewed the agreement in 2004. After that,
Okay.
and before filing this action, did you ever go back to that agreement and reread it?
No.
Okay, so is it true then that you reviewed it in 2004 and didn't look at it again until filing this action 16 years later?
Not only, it was more than just a review. I reviewed the agreement because Al Herman came to us and asking us to make an exception for Sharon Boucher. So Mr. Herman's statement that he said, and which I agree with 100%, it was our
And I
mutual
believe,
intent that
Your Honor,
WPS would
I'm
continue
going to check that
providing.
this is outside of the scope.
Okay, yeah, so if you could just keep your
You
answers
asked if
to
I
the-
talked to anybody. Oh, I'm
Well,
sorry.
No, it's okay. I don't know if you asked that exactly, but let's answer the questions, and then on redirect, your attorney can have you clarify what's missed in your answer.
Go ahead and ask the question then.
Mr. Nolde, you did not talk to Mr. Herman until 2020, correct?
No, I talked to Mr. Herman back in 2004.
And then not again until 2020, correct?
Correct. Well, no, regarding this specific thing, he was
Right.
our wholesale rep. So yes, I talked to him monthly practically, and he attended board meetings and various things. So to
Okay.
say what your answer, yes, I've talked to him throughout that history.
But regarding this agreement, you did not.
Nope. After 2004 and after our discussions, and once it was signed, then it was not up until the CS condo thing, WPS board under their lines.
Okay, so is it also true then that you did not pick up the agreement and re-review it between 2004 and 2020?
There was no need to.
Mr. Nolde, when Oconto Electric originally filed this proceeding in 2020, the parties entered a set of stipulated facts, correct?
Correct.
And you did not submit testimony or an affidavit regarding your understanding or your familiarity with the agreement at that time, correct?
Talking about me personally?
You personally.
Me personally, no, because Al Herman stated it perfectly on where we both stood on it.
Okay, so you didn't
Affidavit.
submit something because you agreed with Mr. Herman and left it up to him to summarize the position?
Well, I assumed with Mr. Herman, based on testimony and things I've done in the past, the person that writes the testimony, the lawyers that put it together, and if we are in an agreement, then I have no problem. And I'll restate what he said. It was our mutual intent that
And that's-
WPS would
Mr.
continue
Noldy, that's
providing
okay. I
chamber say-
understand.
Well, I'm just letting you know what I agreed to, and so I totally agree
We'll
with
get
that
there.
statement.
We'll get there. I promise.
Okay.
I'll ask you about that.
Okay.
Okay. So if you could turn to page 3, I think we are still on 3, lines 9 to 10 of your direct.
Are you going to put it on the screen again? I do not have that.
Should be on the screen right now. So I'm highlighting that.
Okay.
Do you see that?
So Mr. Noldy,
Yep, I
it's
see it.
correct
Thank
that
you.
you've stated that you communicated with Mr. Herman about the agreement, correct?
And are you referring to the amendment now?
The 2004 amendment and the agreement interchangeably.
Okay.
So in 2004, yes, I spoke to Al Herman regarding the communicating regarding the agreement. Yes.
Okay, and you also state in your direct, as you have today, that your recollection of the party's intent is the same as Mr. Herman's, correct?
Correct.
And so in 2004, then, did you review Mr. Herman's affidavit? I'm sorry, in 2020, when he submitted it, did you review that affidavit?
Yes, I did when I was.
And is it, you reviewed that affidavit before submitting testimony in this case, correct?
Explain to me what you mean by that.
Yes, so you submitted testimony in this case just a few months ago, correct? But not before then?
Oh, correct. Correct.
So you reviewed his affidavit before you submitted your own testimony regarding your familiarity with the agreement, correct?
Correct.
So is it possible then that your recollection of the party's intent was influenced by what you read in Mr. Herman's affidavit?
What I read in his affidavit basically went along with my interpretation of the same thing. The two parties that were involved were Al Herman and myself, and we both went into a discussion regarding, this before we signed the agreement, and it was presented to the board in exactly that manner. And again, I can read it again to you. It was.
That's okay. Thank you. So I believe you said it earlier, but was Mr. Herman ever an employee of Oconto Electric?
No.
You said what did you say? He was a sales rep for you?
He was the liaison between WPS and Oconto Electric Cooperative. He was the main contact. When any things that we dealt with, WPS went through Herman, Al Herman and myself basically. And every once in a while, go ahead.
You stated that between 2004 and 2020, you communicated with Mr. Herman on occasion. I think you said maybe even monthly, but not in reference to this agreement.
No, not in references.
Okay, and my question for you is, in what capacity did you speak with him?
I spoke to him as the CEO of Oconto Electric. He spoke in his capacity as the representative from WPS, and we discussed everything from wholesale pricing to contracts and various things, because we renewed contracts with them, with WPS, and things regarding businesses, business functions.
Thank you. How did Oconto Electric go about requesting that Mr. Herman submit an affidavit in 2020?
How did our lawyer contact
I'll withdraw the objection.
Okay.
You can answer if you know, Mr. Noldy.
You need the question read back?
Go ahead and read it back.
Okay, Debbie, can you read that back?
Question: how did Oconto Electric go about requesting that Mr. Herman submit an affidavit in 2020?
And I'm going to make a different objection, Your Honor, to the extent that the question seeks any communication between Mr. Nolde and predecessor counsel who represented OEC. I'd ask that that not be permitted.
And I can clarify, I'm not looking for attorney-client privileged information.
Okay, so we'll see what answer we get. Okay, go ahead, witness Nolde with your answer.
Okay, it was through our counsel. He took the deposition.
Did you personally ever discuss the content of Mr. Herman's affidavit with him before he signed it?
No.
Okay, so you left that to the attorneys and
that
Mr.
was
Herman?
Between that, yes. Yes.
So off the record, I just want to interject, affidavit we're discussing filed in 2020. Do we
It's
have that? No,
part
so
of
that's filed with the commission, I'm assuming, yes.
It's part of the stipulated facts, Your Honor. I believe
Part
it's
of-
the very last exhibit, or if not, then the second to last.
It's exhibit number 10 to the stipulated facts document.
Okay, I see that. All right. So let's, if we wouldn't mind, Attorney Zink, when we get back on the record, can you just identify that location?
Yeah.
That for us? I'm gonna put it on the screen so it's contemporaneous for viewers. So go ahead. Let's get back on the record.
And so just for the record, the affidavit for Mr. Herman that we've been discussing is exhibit 10 to the party's stipulated facts. Mr. Nolde, I still have a couple more questions about this. As we've gone over, and as you can probably see on the screen if Your Honor scrolls to the end, it's true that Mr. Herman did not submit this affidavit till 2020, correct?
You're asking me?
Yes.
Correct, based on that, yes.
Which was 16 years after the parties entered the 2004 agreement, correct?
Yes.
So considering this lapse in time, would you agree it is at least possible that Mr. Herman's recollection of the agreement is inaccurate?
Object calls
I
for
have no-
speculation of what another witness's recollection is.
Sustained.
Mr. Nolde, you have said that you personally haven't reviewed the agreement, or you didn't for a period of 16 years. Is it possible that your own recollection is partially inaccurate based on this lapse in time?
I'm very confident in my recollection of this because the reason it was done was because it was after the fact when it was reviewed by WPS and they realized that they were basically in violation of the agreement because they had a service on the east side of the road. Therefore, I was contacted by WPS and Al Herman, and it basically came to, and we got talking about it, and I said, I have no problem with you continuing to serve that one service on that side of the road because you currently have it. It doesn't make any sense to make them take out their
Okay,
services
and I think we're
lines and
outside of the scope of the
let me
question at
finish.
this
You
point,
asked
Your
the
Honor.
questions.
No,
Anyway.
continue to answer. I think he's what he's speaking to is relevant, so I want him to continue. Go ahead.
Okay. Anyway, so he contacted and I said, we have no problem with you serving that service. Again, it was a large piece of property and we knew someday there'd be development and none of us expected development within the next day. Obviously, it was 20 years or 16 years later, development happened and new services were put in on that property. That's why we filed against WPS for violating the territorial agreement. Simple as that. But in a service, and just so it's clear, a service consists of lines, transformers, poles, underground cable, and the most important part of it is the meter, because that actually is a register that how much energy is being used, and that's what the members build on. And it's just like any service, you can have multiple people come in there, but that service stays the same. That's the metering point when the cash register for the co-op or any utility. And so that, we said you can continue serving that one alone, and nowhere else on the property can another service be put in, and or beyond that, because we retain the right to everything on the east side of the road.
Okay, Your Honor, could I have you put up the agreement, which is the first or second exhibit to the stipulated facts?
Exhibit 2.
This may not come out
Yes.
clear on the screen, so.
And if you wouldn't mind turning, well, first, Mr. Nolde, do you agree this is an accurate copy, at least of the first page of the parties' 2004 agreement?
Yes, is what best I can read it, yes.
Okay, Your Honor, if you could turn to the second page, please.
So it's off the record. I know witness Nolde, you're doing some acrobatics trying to look at the screen, but can you keep your microphone close to your?
Oh, I'm sorry.
That's okay. I know we're
It gets
on the
yeah, but it
we're-
kind of goes down, yeah.
we're breaking new ground here. So I'm gonna try to enlarge this more. I don't know if it's gonna help because it is kind of fuzzy. I didn't notice that before. I guess yeah, because I really wasn't involved in the case before. So, okay, so let's look at, this is the page we're looking at for first page. Of the
Yes,
attachment?
thank
Okay.
you, Your Honor.
Yeah, let's get back on the record.
So, Mr. Nolde, to summarize your testimony in that last response, you've stated that you and WPSC, as you recall, agreed that WPSC could serve this particular property at issue, but that was limited. That was a temporary service, and it didn't consider development of the property. Is that accurate?
Object to
Say that-
mischaracterizing the testimony.
I'm sorry, Mr. Warwick, could you start again?
Just
Object.
object to mischaracterizing the testimony. Specifically, the use of temporary, I don't believe was a word that Mr. Nolde used.
Yeah, I agree with that. You need to rephrase that.
I would
Okay.
additionally object to the word property.
And property too, okay. Is it serving customers? Is that, yeah. Okay, yeah, I think if you could rephrase the question, Attorney Zink.
Mr. Nolde, it is your testimony today that the parties to this agreement agreed that WPSC's service to the customer on the east side of the east frontage road was limited and would not, is that correct?
Limited to Sharon Boucher, or that limited to that service, that one service.
I'm asking you
Metering
about,
point, the metering
both.
point. That's
it's your testimony that it was limited to that one point of service. Is that correct?
right. That's correct.
And that the parties, you said the parties contemplated, you knew there could be development at the property, correct?
I said common sense would tell you that when you got open land there and East Frontage Road could get developed in the future time, that someday there'd be new services going on that property of which WPS could not serve, but OEC would be serving.
But it's true,
That
if you're
was- that
looking
was
at
in
this.
the direct
Hang on.
testimony of, that's the direct testimony or affidavit from the guy that was negotiating with Oconto Electric, and Al Herman stated the same thing, who was negotiating for WPS.
I understand that you agree with Mr. Herman's affidavit. What I'd like to ask you is, in this agreement here, this highlighted paragraph on the screen, is there anything in the language here that discusses development at the site?
It specifically lists WPS customer on the east side of the road, frontage road, Sharon Boucher, that one customer. That's it.
Does,
That the service is already there, no new service. It doesn't say anything about new services. So yes, I agree. No, they had no right to serve any new services on the east side of the road. The new services were left up for Oconto Electric Cooperative. That's the way it was, and that's the way it's read.
that's the way you read it, that there was no
That's the way
permission
myself
for
reads
new.
it, and W.
Wait, excuse me, just one at a time,
I'm
please. You
sorry.
need to
I'm
let her,
sorry. I'm sorry.
you need to let her finish the question. Thank you.
Yes. I
I'm asking you
apologize.
about the
I realize.
agreement, and I believe
Okay.
you did say that,
I'm sorry, Ms. Zink, can you start over? I want to get it clear.
yes. Mr. Nolde, I'm asking you about the agreement that you see on the screen. And I believe you just answered that it does not mention new service. Is that correct? That's my only question.
Basically, it says WPSC will serve customers on the west side of the east frontage road, plus the singular existing three-phase WPSC's customer on the east side of the east frontage road, Sharon Boucher. That was it to the exception, the.
Okay,
that
so is
single
it your
customer,
position?
I agree with that.
Is it your
That's the way
position?
I read it.
Okay, let her answer, ask a question now.
Oh. Yep, I'm
Is it your
sorry.
position that anything you and Mr. Herman agreed to is in the text of this paragraph, paragraph 1 to the agreement?
Say that one more time. I'm just listening, trying to decipher what exactly you're asking.
Let's read it back.
Question, is it your position that anything you and Mr. Herman agreed to is in the text of this paragraph, paragraph 1 to the agreement?
This is what Al Herman and I both agreed to, based on plus with our going back and forth and deciding what we meant by all these words to our intent with the agreement. So yes, this is what we agreed to. Our intent of the agreement is also what is a huge part of it. It's what our discussion said that we came up with, and we discussed, and then it was presented to our, my board of directors. That it was strictly this one service, the, Sharon Boucher's, and no additional services.
Okay, Your Honor, if you could turn to page 1 of Mr. Nolde's rebuttal testimony, please.
Okay, give me a second.
And yep, looking at the bottom, page 1, lines 13 to 16.
Okay, can you see that, witness Nolde?
Mr. Nolde, you state in your rebuttal testimony that it was, quote, "Our mutual intent was that WPS would continue providing Miss Burrish service, but that exception was intended only for the existing service and would not be available for any other additional service on her property or beyond." Did I read that correctly?
That's correct.
And do you have any support for that statement outside of Mr. Herman's affidavit and your own recollection as you've testified?
The two people that formed the agreement.
Mr. Herman and yourself, correct?
Correct.
So why not include, Matt, scratch that. If we could look at still your rebuttal, the bottom of page 1 and the beginning of page 2, you state that Ms. Kroll is taking the position that the word customer, in quotes, in the 2004 amendment means, quote, premises or property. Did I read that correctly?
Yes.
that is not how you personally interpret the agreement, correct?
Correct.
You interpret the reference to customer to mean an individual entity. Is that correct?
I interpret it as an individual, the service that, again, what a service is the metering point. And you can have multiple metering points on property, but that's why I said and then went on to say that single service. That's what it meant. It did not mean premise. It did not say premise. It said which is the singular form for Miss Burche, and that was it for that service. So someone could change, just like anyone can change in any service. That's okay. That service is already there. That you would WPS would continue serving it for whenever, for infinity, as long as it's still there and someone who wants to use it, but no additional service beyond that service.
Okay, so the reference in the agreement to the three-phase WPS customer on the east side of the east frontage road. That reference you interpret to mean one service. Is that correct?
Correct.
So that would mean that service then is temporary under your interpretation, correct?
What do you mean by temporary?
Objection.
Okay, what ground?
Mischaracterizes the testimony. He hasn't said anything was temporary.
And that's what I'm asking him.
If he believes it's temporary or not?
Yes.
Okay, go ahead and answer. I think I think we know the answer he's gonna tell us, so.
They can continue serving that service without adding any new services to it forever. You could have 100 different owners in there.
So who's
It's
they?
a
Who's
single
the they?
service.
I'm sorry.
The
I'm sorry, Ms. Noldy,
WP
let me interrupt.
Okay.
Just that they can continue to serve. Who do you mean by they in your current?
I'm sorry. I am sorry. WPS can continue to service that metering point where they have their meter until someone wants it, until no one wants it anymore. Let's put it that way. You could have 100 different people in that same service.
So am I understanding your testimony now to be that this reference was to a service, one service point, not to an individual customer, not to Miss Burrish herself?
She was the customer that was there. And so her name was used to explain where it was their service was, that one service, that one metering point. Again, what a service consists of is lines, transfer poles, or underground cable. And once that service is there, that service can serve that house or that house for many, many years. Let's just put it that way. That makes it explains it better.
I'm sorry, that makes it.
Just to repeat what you said.
I said, okay, basically, let's use residential, just call it that.
No, just.
Miss Burche was okay, I didn't hear.
She just missed the last three words that you said. She didn't hear what you said at the end of your sentence.
Sir, you said that makes it way better, maybe?
Can you read it real quick, what I said before? I'm having a hard time hearing.
This is talking about Miss Burche. You said she was the customer that was there, and so her name was used to explain where their service was, that one metering point. Again, what a service lines, transfers, poles, or underground cable, and once the service is there, that service can serve that house or that house for many, many years. Let's put it that way. That makes it
much simpler. I just changed it from a name to a metering point, so makes it much more sense that way, I think.
So more simpler would be how
Yeah.
you would end that
Yeah.
sentence. Okay,
Correct.
you got that? You have that, Debbie?
Yeah.
Okay, all right. Okay, let's continue. We have any more questions?
I do.
Yeah, go ahead.
So Mr. Nolde, I'm just going to read the first sentence of the agreement to you. WPSC will serve customers on the west side of the east frontage road, plus the existing three-phase WPSC customer on the east side of the east frontage road, and in parentheses, Sharon Burrish is listed. Now, if you'll notice, the word customer or customer appears twice in that sentence. Is that correct?
Well, yes and no. WPS will serve customers on the S side, on the west side of the east frontage road, plus the existing three-phase customer, which is singular, on the east side of the road.
And is it your
That is
position
what's
that
correct.
because this reference is singular, it means a singular service point?
Absolutely.
And so for the reference to plural customers, now we can substitute in for the word customers, service points?
And that's exactly when you talk about the agreement, and when it says all the customers on the west side, that means all the servicing points. They're serving them. It's kind of like regardless of it's any customer on the west side of the road, they get to serve all those serving points, because there'll be new customers coming, there'll be new service lines put in, there'll be new services put in, and on the west side, that's theirs. Everything on the east side of the road is Oconto Electric's, and any new customers, service lines, metering points, all that's Oconto Electric's. And the only exception that this says is which is singular, is Miss Burchay's, and we're not contesting that. And we have no problem with them serving that multiple years, just
Okay.
that one service. No other service points or metering points outside of that, even on that property, which Al, the guy that negotiated, said, and which I agree to, and I've said.
Okay, so Mr. Nolde, it is true though. It is your position that customers denotes service points. Is that correct?
It is you're talking about on this paragraph we're reading.
Yes, we're talking about paragraph 1 of this agreement.
Customers on the west side of the road is plural, and absolutely they serve based on the description, everything on the west side, we serve
So,
everything
Mr.
on the
Nolde, that's not my question. I know that
Okay.
the first reference to customers is plural. We're on the same page there. I'm wondering if that reference you are interpreting to mean service points, also plural.
services are metering points, absolutely.
So is the word customers here meant to denote service points?
Yes, every
Okay.
customer.
And is that
you
the
put in a
same
service
thing?
to that customer?
Okay, let her ask a question.
In the second sentence, I'm sorry, in the last sentence of this agreement, third, it says they will serve customers on the east side of the east frontage road. Can we also then, is it also your interpretation that that reference to customers also means service points?
I'll say that again.
Yes, so now
I
we're looking
didn't draw
at the,
the OEC has installed overhead three-phase facilities on the east side of the road and on the east side of the frontage road. They will serve customers on the east side of the east frontage road. Yes, we'll serve customers on the east side of the east frontage road.
does that reference to customers denote service points?
Service, yes.
Okay, thank you. To your knowledge, has Oconto Electric ever challenged WPSC's right to serve any of the properties on the west side of the east frontage road, subject to this agreement?
Say that one more time.
Let's read it back.
Question, to your knowledge, has Oconto Electric ever challenged WPSC's right to serve any of the properties on the west side of the east frontage road subject to this agreement?
Not that I know of.
Okay. I'm sorry, Judge Newmark, can you please turn to Mr. Noldy's direct testimony, page 3,
Okay,
lines 22 to 23, which are up. Mr. Noldy, you state here, quote, "We agreed that WPS's service would stay in place, and we agreed there would be no additional services extended by WPS on the property." Did I read that correctly?
What was your question? Did you read that correct? Okay, yes. I'm sorry.
No, I think
Connection
we've
isn't the
covered it,
greatest.
but Your Honor, if you could go back to the agreement, please.
sure.
Mr. Noldy, I think you've already stated this, but those exact words do not appear in this agreement, correct?
Those exact words don't. You're right.
Okay. Now, Your Honor, if we could flip back to direct page 4, please.
Okay,
Lines 8 to 9. Mr. Noldy, you state that the parties contemplated the potential for new customers in the area of the service boundaries. That is the reason for having a territorial agreement. Did I read that correctly?
Yes.
But in the agreement, the parties did not include a specific provision for terminating WPS's service, correct?
You're talking about to Sharon Berchet?
Yes. Is there anything in the agreement that says something along the lines of when WPS's service would terminate or how?
No, they'll continue serving that as long as they have a customer that wants to take power from them.
Okay, thank
Sure.
you. Okay, then if we could turn to page 6 of your direct. Lines 3 to 5. You state that OEC's 3-phase line is capable of serving the CSI development. It could likely do so with fewer new facilities, and it is closer to the new services than WPS's 3-phase line. Did I read that correctly?
Yes.
So here, are you saying that OEC would have to add new facilities to serve the CSI development, correct?
We would definitely have to add, whether we go underground, whether we service line, which the WPS did, whether we inserted a pole such as they did, we could choose our own, or we may not even have to. Based on our engineering, we had poles on that side of the road. So no matter how you measure or where you measured, we're closer.
Okay, if we could turn to Exhibit OEC Noldy 1, please.
but I just wanted to be clear at the end of your last answer, you said, was there a possibility that OEC would not have to add new facilities to serve?
I never said, me you talking to? Oh,
Yeah.
no, we would all have to add new facilities because we have a 3-phase line on each side of the road. We'd all have to add wire, transformers, metering, and so forth.
Okay, just wanted to clear that up. Okay, go ahead.
Oh, I'm sorry if I didn't quite understand it. Thank you, Jim.
That's okay. All right, next question.
Your Honor, are you able to pull up Exhibit Noldy 1, please?
I hope so. Get the cover page up there, so it's, well,
Yep.
here's our fire alarm test going. It's not going to be in my office particularly, so hopefully that won't disrupt. Can you
I can't hear it.
hear it? Okay. All right, so there's Noldy 1. So why don't we get on the record and go ahead?
Is there someone else? Oh, is that what you were saying? Because I could
That's
hear
the-
them talking
yeah.
and you.
Why don't we wait just a second? Yeah, it shouldn't take long.
I'm probably the only one bothered by it.
But you're the one who needs to hear everything, right? So I don't think you can, they don't actually sound the alarm. So they may come back closing the test. Usually used to do that, but no, they sound.
Attention, attention, attention. There is a fire at the scene. All participants will walk down to the time to and report on the line. Do not use the elevator. Do not use the elevator. Attention.
I think it's passed, Judge.
They may conclude the test as well. They get online to do that too. Just wait a second here. Probably as soon as we start talking, they'll talk over us. Oh, maybe we're good.
We're good?
I think we can try it. Otherwise, we'll just be interrupted. So, why don't we get back on the record? So we have the Nolde 1 exhibit on the screen. Why don't you go ahead, Attorney Zink?
Thank you. So Mr. Nolde, you just testified that to serve CSI, OEC would have to add wire transformers, meters, and potentially poles if you decide to do that, correct?
Right.
So, Your Honor, if you could scroll down a little bit. Thank you, that's good. So, Mr. Nolde, looking at this exhibit, do you see, I mean, it's true that Oconto Electric does not have any transformers on the subject property, correct?
Well, outside by the road, there's poles, whatever there could be going by, but yes, where they're located on the property itself. If there was we do have poles that are feeding other services.
You do have poles, and if I'm correct here in looking at
The
this
poles
exhibit,
are on the line, yes.
you
Yeah.
have
The
four
poles are-
poles.
Okay, let's stop for a second. When you finish the sentence, Attorney Nolde, Witness Nolde, then if Attorney Zink starts asking a question, can you just stop talking, please? So
Yes,
we don't
sir.
talk over each other. I think the attorney is waiting for a break, and I think she's reasonably waiting for you to end your comment and then starting a new question. Then you can start to complete a new idea, but we're gonna try to have you not speak over each other anymore. And so if Attorney Zink is starting a question, can you please stop answering? And then if you need to add something, let us know. But let's have the attorney ask the question, and then we can deal with anything else you need to say. But I don't think she's trying to talk over you. I think she's waiting for you to end your comment, and then she's reasonably beginning a question. So let's have her ask her question. We need to deal with something else after that, we can, but so let's see how that goes. Let's try not to have people talking over each other, okay?
Yes, sir.
Okay, let's get back on the record. So do we have a pending question, or you were just starting it, I think?
I think I was starting it. Yes,
Okay,
thank
go
you, Your Honor. Mr. Nolde, there are 4 Oconto Electric poles along its distribution line in this exhibit. Is that correct? And
I don't see the whole thing, but yes, I'll take your word for it.
So,
yes, there's 4.
yes, it's
Yes,
hard to
there's
see
4.
them all at once, but we have poles labeled F3-56, F3-57, F3-58, and F3-59. Do you see those?
Correct. Yes,
Are these 4 poles all the poles that OEC has on its distribution line alongside the property?
yes,
And in your testimony today, you've stated that OEC may or may not add poles if it gets permission to serve CSI. Is that correct?
correct.
And nowhere in your testimony, either the pre-filed written testimony or today, have you stated exactly where OEC would add poles if it chose to do so, correct?
Correct.
Nor have you stated exactly where OEC would add transformers, correct?
Correct.
So it's true then that you cannot say exactly how far OEC's service extension would be without knowing where it would add poles or transformers, correct?
No, to this extent that based on where our line's at, we could add a pole and we could be within 100 or 83 feet of the one or 82 of the other. That's what the description shows. Or if based on the cost, if the pole down near the bottom, we could actually come off that one pole and we might be 100 or so off, which still be closer than WPS. So to answer your question, we'd be closer, yes, but depending on where pole and where we inserted a pole.
And depending on where you installed, I'm sorry, depending also on where you install transformers, correct?
Correct.
So we can't measure today exactly how far the pole to the transformer would be, correct?
Correct.
Okay. And just to clarify then, Your Honor, I'm sorry if you could scroll back to where those red lines are. Mr. Nolde, these 2 red measurements, OEC of 83 feet, OEC of 82 feet. Those are from WPSC transformers to the closest points on Oconto Electric's pole, or I'm sorry, on its distribution line, correct?
What point did you call it?
So let's just look at the top one. OEC 83 feet. That
Yep.
measurement is just a measurement from a point on OEC's line to a WPS transformer, correct?
Correct.
And same with OEC 82 feet.
Correct.
Okay. I'm done with this exhibit. Thank you, Your Honor. Mr. Nolde, the commission has asked the parties to address several factors, one including the protection of and benefit to the consuming public. So if we're looking at the customer, CSI has, through James Nimmer, has testified that it does not want service from Oconto Electric, correct?
Objection mischaracterizes the testimony of
Okay.
Mr. Nimmer.
Well, we can have that testimony put on the screen and we can, if you want to refer to the testimony you're speaking of, Attorney Zanklin can do that.
Yep, this is direct, WPSC Nimmer. And I'm looking at page 2, I believe. So line 13, Mr. Nimmer says that CSI wants WPSC to continue providing its service at the property, correct?
I have not talked to them, but yes.
What was the last part of that answer?
I said, see, you said CSI wants WPSC to continue providing service at the property. Is that correct? I said, I have not talked to them personally, but that's
Okay.
the words they're saying, yes.
Fair enough. So is it your position, though, that the commission should order WPSC to terminate its service to CSI and allow Oconto Electric to begin service there?
Based on the territorial agreement, yes.
In order to do that, in order for OEC to extend service, we've already discussed that OEC would have to add some facilities, correct?
Correct.
And that would mean OEC is incurring some costs to do that, correct?
Say that, who would incur costs?
To do that work, Oconto Electric would incur costs,
Oh.
correct?
Yes, yes.
So in your view, who would pay those costs?
Objection, that's a legal conclusion that would be determined by the commission.
May I respond?
Yes, go ahead.
I don't think this is a legal conclusion. I'm asking the CEO of the co-op based on his tariffs, who would pay those charges or who he'd request to pay those charges.
Your Honor, it's a hypothetical question of if the commission determines that under the agreement, OEC has the right to serve those CSI condo storage units, then the question is, what is the commission order? Does the commission order OEC to compensate WPSC for those facilities and take over the facilities? Does it order WPSC to rip out facilities and OEC to insert facilities? So we could come up with numerous hypotheticals here, but the answer to that question ultimately would be determined by the commission, depending on what its conclusion is in the docket, based on the issue of does OEC have the right to serve CSI?
If I may, Judge,
Yeah, go ahead.
I agree that it's the commission's decision. I think that's clear and well put, but I do think it would benefit the record to understand exactly what is being asked. So as many alternatives as we can get into the record for discussion, I think it would be appreciated by the commission.
So I'm going to overrule the objection with the understanding that, yes, we want to know what relief Oconto Electric Cooperative is requesting, but also I think in the context of the line of questioning, it's appropriate to understand how in terms of customer benefit, which was one of the questions of the commission, how the witness analyzes customer benefit in terms of costs to each provider relevant to maintaining service or switching service. So to get the perspective of the witness is appropriate. So let's.
Your Honor, I'm sorry to interrupt.
No, go ahead.
I was going to say, I think also that this line of questioning and what Your Honor just highlighted is addressed in Mr. Nolde's rebuttal testimony.
Yes, that's true too. At least I do recall reading that. So can you point to where he's answering those questions, Attorney Woywood?
And I believe that the testimony regarding customer benefit and preference within the rebuttal testimony begins at page 6 to 7, and then testimony specific to costs for WPS to discontinue serving CSI is addressed on page 9.
And Your Honor, if I may, I just request, I agree with Attorney Rogers that it would be good to at least put in the record Oconto Electric's position on these things. So I would ask that Mr. Nolde answer the question with that understanding. And if he chooses to rely on this rebuttal, then he can state so.
Okay.
And Your Honor, I guess to the point of the matter is if WPSC violated the agreements, what costs they expended ultimately become irrelevant to whether or not there's a violation. It becomes relevant to if how this gets resolved, which again is we're getting into multiple layers of hypotheticals here. And the idea that Mr. Nolde, prior to being granted the right for OEC to serve CSI, is going to be able to provide a detailed explanation of every single cost that OEC would incur and or address every single cost that WPS has incurred I don't think is particularly reasonable.
I don't think that was my question. I'm asking what OEC is requesting. If it incurs costs, who is it asking to pay for those costs? That's it.
Yeah, I think that's a reasonable question. Let's just have him answer that. To the extent we can do it, can we read that question back? So it would be Attorney Zenk's question before the objection.
You may need more, but so in your view, who would pay those costs? Do you want me to go back further?
Is there a bigger statement from the attorney, or is that?
No, that's just the question. Let me just go. That would mean OEC is incurring some cost to do that, correct? Answer, who would incur costs? Question, to do that work, Oconto Electric would incur costs, correct? Answer, yes, yes. Question, so in your view, who would pay those costs?
Okay. Yeah, go ahead and answer that, witness nodal.
Who would pay those costs? It would be very similar. The customer would pay a certain amount of the cost until we'd have to stake it. Once you stake it, then you bring it back in and you put all the cost into based on our cost of material and everything else that you're going to use for that project. And, based on that, like I said, the customer would be paying a portion or a chunk of that cost. Absolutely.
And that's
like
based
with WPS or anybody else. I mean, that's just part of life.
And that's based on your application of your current tariff. Is that correct?
Right.
Okay.
Yeah. And
Okay, we don't need to. I don't think we need to
Oh,
explain
okay.
that.
Okay. I didn't
That
know what
answers
you
the
needed.
question.
So.
Okay, but that's fine. Thank you. So any other questions from Attorney Zenk?
So if Mr. Nolde, if the commission decided that Oconto Electric had the exclusive right to serve CSI, what are you asking the order to state with respect to the costs that OEC would bill CSI?
Objection, Your Honor. The question calls for legal conclusions, asking what should be in the order.
I'm just asking for the relief for what Oconto Electric would request of
Well,
the
is that in the
commission.
petition?
It is in the petition. The petition speaks for itself.
Okay.
So I don't believe that Mr. Nolde needs to comment on what the prayer for relief means.
Okay, let's go off the record for a second. Petition's not on my list, although it's pleading.
While you're off, I'm gonna go off for just a second. I'll be right
Okay.
back.
No, we're gonna lose you. That's it. Yeah, so petition is not on the offered evidence list, but it's obviously a pleading in the case, but maybe it was filed in their application.
Judge, I don't see a specific request to address this question in the petition. I see grant OEC any additional relief the commission finds to be equitable, just, or reasonable.
Your Honor, I think if counsel's question were, what does, Mr. Nolde think the commission should do to resolve these? I think that, I wouldn't object to that question. I think asking Mr. Nolde what should be in the order, that is where I'm raising an objection to asking for legal conclusions. I think that's part of what would be in the briefing with respect to applicable case law, citation to other commission decisions, things of that nature. But if the question is kind of at a higher level of, then I don't think that's an objectionable question. But so that's where I'm coming from there.
Okay, so can we get on the record?
Yep.
Okay, so yeah, I think we have a basic understanding of where we're headed here. I'm going to allow the question. I think the understanding that may have been missing is that, we're asking this question of a lay witness, not an attorney. We're seeking the position of the cooperative as stated by the CEO, not a legal analysis of what relief is available, but what relief is being requested by the cooperative, regardless of its legal basis, I suppose. So let's have the question read back. The last question from Attorney Zink.
Question, Mr. Nolde, if the commission decided that Oconto Electric had the exclusive right to serve CSI, what are you asking the order to state with respect to the costs that OEC would bill CSI?
Regarding, based on the way I see it, it would be the commission or whatever would set within their parameters, whatever cost that, say, WPS had in minus boring of the road. So that includes, there's wires out there that we could buy from underground wires from WPS. We could possibly buy their transformers, I'm assuming, and or put in our own if they wanted to keep their transformer. We'd have to put in our metering, and then all the other underground that's serving all those individual services within that area, which I think you read in 44, if I'm not mistaken, just at the beginning when we started. That cost, the commission could figure it out, less depreciation or what have you, and we could buy it from WPS. And then there might be a little additional cost regarding, depending on our going from our pole to their service to connect to wherever their transformer was. That would be the difference, getting rid of that line from their three-phase service onto the road to that transformer from our overhead service, basically going underground to that service. That's what I would see.
Okay, so Mr. Nolde, if I'm understanding correctly, any work that OEC does to extend service to CSI, it would bill to CSI and then request the commission to approve. Is that correct?
We could. We look at every service in every individual situation, and but there could be some billing charge. But as it was stated here, it was nominal distance for either one of us to get to them to serve them. The main part of the service that you have in is all the underground going to all the metering points or the meter points, and that we could buy. They would not have to repay again, because provided. Let me rephrase that because it's not my thing to say. Provided the commission said that, based on this minus this minus this is what you got to pay WPS to buy their facilities, such as the underground. So that way, because WPS, I'm not sure what they charge CIS for that, to be honest with you.
Okay, so if you did not have to complete any work and you bought WPS's facilities, would you also charge CSI those costs?
Objection. The question first to, I guess, can you clarify costs? We were just talking about costs to connect. Now we're potentially talking about WPSC's costs that have been incurred.
Yes, he testified that Oconto Electric may refrain from doing some work and instead buy WPS's services or facilities. So now I'm asking, is OEC going to charge the customer for those costs?
Now, I'm assuming then if WPS, if CIS paid whatever they paid to WPS, that money we would not be paying for those facilities. That would be subtracted out because CIS already paid that, so that should come off any costs that we would incur. And then whatever the difference is, that would be up to us whether we, charge them or not.
Okay, so just real
And
simply.
I have no clue what your costs are, so I have no
Nope.
clue.
I am just asking, to the extent Oconto Electric incurs any costs to make this service connection, would it bill CSI for those costs?
Could
An
we? Yes.
objection, it's complete hypothetical based on a hypothetical of what the commission, decides, and then how it decides to resolve the issue of costs.
Your Honor, it's not hypothetical. It's the relief that Oconto Electric is requesting but hasn't specified.
Okay, overruled. Please answer the question.
Could we? Yes. Could we waive it also? Yes, we could.
Okay, so at this
Or we
point,
could
you
do
can't
anything
say
in
what you would.
between.
Wait, hang on.
I haven't seen the cost. I don't know what the costs are. I have no clue what you have into it. But the point is, we would make that call based on, when we get all the costs put together, like anything, like any service. There's certain portions that we may waive on any service that goes in. Certain portions we may not.
Okay, so you can't say today exactly how you would handle those costs.
Absolutely, without seeing them in front of me, absolutely I can.
Okay, no further questions, Your Honor.
All right, sounds good. Okay, any questions from commission staff?
No questions, Your Honor.
All right, and redirect.
Thank you. Let's pick up on the issue of costs. Mr. Nolde, are you proposing or are you asking that the commission order CSI to pay connection costs more than once?
No, CSI should not have to pay their costs more than once. No. Did I get your question right? My phone is not great.
Let me know if at any point you can't hear me clearly and I'll try to speak up, okay?
Okay. My furnace just with air went on, so that's half the problem too. So go ahead.
For example, if each condo unit, say, costs WPS $1 to connect, and WPSC is ordered to remove its facilities, and OEC installs facilities, and it also will cost OEC $1 per unit, would CSI be ultimately charged $2?
Objection.
I would hope not.
Oh, there's an objection.
Shut up.
Wait, there is an objection. What's the grounds for the objection?
A confusing hypothetical.
The $2. Yeah, if you want to rephrase that, where each dollar is coming from, I think, is that the source of your objection?
That would be helpful.
Yeah, I agree that.
Mr. Nolde, let's assume that for the sake of simplicity, for each of the 44 units that receive service from WPS, it costs CSI or the unit owners $1 paid to WPS to make the connection. Do you follow?
Right, yes.
Let's assume that the commission finds in favor of OEC and orders WPS to just outright remove all facilities. Do you follow?
Yes.
And let's assume that to connect OEC's facilities to each unit, it will cost $1 per unit that would usually be paid by the unit owner to OEC. Do you follow?
Yes,
Do you agree that if that charge was made to each unit owner, each time that would be $2 paid by the unit owners?
yes.
Is that, using that hypothetical, are you proposing that unit owners be charged that hypothetical $2? If the commission finds in favor of OEC?
If the commission ruled that they remove all their facilities, I would obviously prefer they leave them there and then we buy them out, so the CIS would not be with that situation. But could we waive those? Absolutely, we could if we decided.
And when you say, could we waive those, who exactly do you mean?
Well, again, we're ruled by our members and we take it to the board and say, listen, due to these circumstances, there was an unusual circumstances that took place, instead of charging the member, because again, we work for the member, they elect all our board of directors. So, I would have to get permission to waive the charges at that point.
In this case, would CSI be a member?
Yes, every meter point, every one of those become a member. I mean, one member might have two meters, say, on his or whatever, but it's still that meter's a member and he has voting rights, and they elect our board of directors.
And have there in fact been instances where OEC has proposed to the board that certain costs be waived?
Yes, we have. We've went to the board and had certain costs waived for individuals that needed some help. We've had certain costs that we let them use what we call capital credits to fund a meter upgrade or facility upgrades. We've had them use from electric heat because our margins get whatever margins we make at the end of the year get put in a member's account, and it's tracked. It's all federal law. Back when they started cooperatives, and there's a cycle that you return these members back. But we've also added things where they can use it for upgrades to their system or what have you at a discounted. So if we're on a 20-year cycle, whatever, then they get it discounted and they can use those capital credits to improve their facilities.
And at the end of this case, if you were faced with a position where WPSC was ordered to remove all facilities and OEC was permitted to connect its facilities, would this be a case that you would take to the board of OEC to address waiver of
Absolutely.
costs?
I'm sorry, to address.
Waiver
Yeah.
of costs?
Thank you.
Okay, now for me to answer. Yes.
Early in the cross-examination.
Can I just interrupt, just to close the loop on the requested relief? Since it doesn't appear from the petition that there was a specific relief requested, I guess it would be helpful to know the cooperative's position as to what exactly it does request the commission to order in case it finds a violation of pub service. And so just to give you an example, is it requesting that facilities be removed? Is it requesting that the facilities be sold? Is it, what exactly does it want? If the commission finds in its favor, what would it be? Its dream remedy. So is there a position you could give us, Witness Nolde?
Your Honor, I believe Mr. Nolde just said that what his preference would be that it'd be ordered to compensate acquire facilities. That was one of the first things he said in response to my questions.
Okay, because he used a lot of if we do this, if we do that. That's the position is to acquire the facilities in place. That's.
Mr. Nolde, if can you address the ALJ if he's accurately stated your position as a lay
Yes.
witness?
Yeah, no problem. I would, any facilities that we could utilize on our system that would tie to our system and be all compatible, absolutely, we would rather buy those and from WPS, minus obviously depreciation and minus anything that CSI donated to them or it was part of theirs. So they're not getting CSI's dollars when it was for those facilities. You know what I'm saying? So that needs to be subtracted off, and then we would pay WPS the difference. So if CSI, say it was 10,000, CSI paid 5,000, then the commission would say CSI already paid 5,000. The cost to us to buy the remainder of the facilities would be 5,000. Something along those lines. Does that explain it?
That does, yes, and that's your preferred remedy.
Absolutely.
Okay, and then so the cost that you would expend to purchase the WPS facilities minus any customer contribution, would the cooperative be billing that amount back to the customer?
That's the part I would take to the board and ask them to waive it because of the circumstances.
Okay, so you don't know, it may or may not be billed to the customer depending on the board's decision.
Correct.
Okay, all right. Thank you. Okay, go ahead, Attorney Waywood.
Thank you. Early in the question from Attorney Zank, you were asked if you ever re-reviewed, that was the word, re-reviewed the 2004 amendment from 2004 to 2020. Do you recall that questioning?
Yes, sir.
When you first were presented with the agreement or the amendment in 2004, do you consider what you did a review in 2004?
2004, we looked at the agreement, obviously, when Al Herman, Mr. Herman, brought it to us and said, we see a problem here because of based on how the agreement's worded, and that's when we came to the amendment on 2004.
So to be clear, was it more Herman and simply reviewing it?
I don't really understand what you mean by more.
In 2004, did you have phone conversations or in-person conversations with Mr. Herman?
Oh, absolutely, yes. We met a few times to go over everything and where we, what we both interpreted and what we thought.
And that was specific to this 2004 amendment?
Yes. We met several times before we, came to the agreement on the amendment before it was presented to our board for our, I think it was Dan, our board president, that chairman of the board that signed.
And that document that was presented to the board and then signed by the chairman of the board, was that consistent with all of your conversations with Mr. Herman up to that point?
Yes.
You also stated that you periodically had communication with Mr. Herman subsequent to 2004. Do you remember that testimony?
Yes.
You referred to contracts with Mr. Herman. Do you recall that testimony?
Yes.
All right. When you were referring to those contracts, specifically, what were you referring to?
The contracts with Mr. Herman?
Yes.
This screen's going weird, but anyway, Mr. Herman, when he contacted us on various things throughout the stuff, but the 2004 amendment specifically, he brought to our attention because they would like to continue serving that single service, which I said before, and we agreed. We said it doesn't make sense to pull out facilities that are already there and go through all that kind of stuff. We said, so you can go ahead and continue serving them. We had WPS was very good to work with. Mr. Herman was very good to work with at that time.
And then after 2004, were there other contracts that you worked with Mr. Herman on?
Yes, and our biggest ones were the wholesale power contracts. We worked a
With-
few different wholesale. Go
And who
ahead.
were the parties, for example, to the wholesale contract?
It was WPS and Oconto Electric were the two main parties. And Mr. Herman led the team regarding the wholesale power contract, and there was people behind the scene. Don't get me lawyers and all that goes on, but the negotiations were primarily between Al Herman and myself regarding the wholesale power contract.
Up until the point Mr. Herman retired from WPSC, do you recall negotiating with any other employee of WPSC on any contract?
We regarding contracts, we discussed things like with I had discussions with Larry Wires. We had talked to various things. Charlie Severance was another one. Then there was another Charlie. Anyway, but the main one we talked to, the main individual we talked to, was Mr. Herman, because he was the lead for those individuals. Whether he brought them in the room to talk or whatever, he was the lead.
During cross-examination, you likened the word service to being a metering point. Do you recall that?
Yes, sir.
If the ALJ, if you could bring up Exhibit 2 to the stipulated facts again.
Sure, just give me a second.
Thank you.
So I think we're in this document. So this is the Exhibit 2.
Yes, and if we could proceed to the second page, please.
Sure.
Mr. Nolde, you see in the agreement where it refers to the existing three-phase WPSC customer on the east side of the East Frontage Road, parentheses Sharon Burrish. Do you see that portion of the agreement on your screen?
Yes.
And I believe, is it accurate that you liken customer to being a service point or meter point?
Correct.
Mr. Nolde, is that the same as customer referring to the entire 30 acres that we're talking
No,
about?
nope. That was just the existing three-phase customer, which was Sharon Burchet.
So is it correct that you do not liken customer to customer location?
Correct. The customers are metering points. A customer is basically who you're billing for that energy use. So without a metering point, you don't have a customer. You can't bill them. You got to have some way of billing them.
Is that why you referred to, I think at one point, metering being a cash register for a cooperative or utility?
Correct.
No other questions, thank you.
Okay, thanks. Yeah, off the record, you just don't want to call it a cash register in a rate case. Just,
Yeah.
Okay,
No.
let's get on the record. You guys don't have to deal with that though.
Yeah.
so we have all we need from our Oconto Cooperative witness, so you're excused. We have one witness then. Let's just go off the record and just, can we anticipate questions from that witness? What do you think we're going to be looking at in terms of time frame?
Are you asking me specific or?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, I
Yeah, I
do
don't have supplemental direct.
No supplemental direct, okay. In terms of cross,
Right, I do have cross on behalf of OEC. I suspect it will run shorter than the cross of Mr. Noldy, but we'll see.
okay. Well, so Debbie, how are you doing? Do you need a break or?
I'm good.
You're good. All right. Well, let's just keep going then.
Okay.
All right, so let's call pub service witnesses then.
Okay, WPSC calls Miss Lynn Kroll to the stand.
Okay. Set up your witness thing.
Sorry, one moment as we get her tech set up.
Yep, no worries, off the record.
Your Honor, may I actually request a very quick bathroom break?
Sure, let's do it. Let's reconvene at noon.
I'm much faster than that. I promise.
Yeah, but once you let people go, it's gonna take, it's now reflected on you, don't worry. So
Okay.
it'll take about 10 minutes. We'll be back at noon. Hopefully this won't take much longer. So I'm just gonna set up a recess. You can turn video and audio off until then.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Did you say in the beginning before Ms. Sink that Kate Phillips is also with you?
Yes, that's correct.
And who else?
James Goldschmidt, who is
Okay,
appearing on screen.
great. Thank you.
All right, so we're back. Everyone here, we're needing. I guess we need our witness screen up. There we go. Perfect. Okay, so let's test out our audio and video here. So I just have I guess the witness is the only one we haven't heard from yet. So go ahead, Ms. Kroll.
Let me unmute.
Stay muted and see if we can hear your audio.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I think that's good. So excellent. So the only problem is if you're using Attorney Zenk's microphone, you're not going to appear. Your face won't appear on the live stream. So just everyone be aware of that. But one of those technical details. So to the extent we can, I'm going to try to turn off the screen share so that people can see you as well as hear you. So if there's a opportunity for me to do that, I'll have, well, actually, let me just do that when we start introductions first, at least. So, all right, let's get on the record. So we're back from a break. It's now Wisconsin Public Services turn for witnesses. So why don't we begin with witness Kroll? Let me swear you in. So raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
All right, and go ahead, Ms. Witness.
Ms. Kroll, could you please state and spell your name for the record?
Sure. It's Lynn Kroll, Lynnkrll.
Ms. Kroll, did you submit written, pre-filed, direct, and surrebuttal testimony in this docket on behalf of WPSC?
I did.
Did you also submit 6 exhibits?
I did.
Is everything that you stated in your testimony and exhibits true and accurate to the best of your knowledge?
It is.
Do you have any changes or corrections to make?
I do not.
Okay, Ms. Kroll is available for cross.
Okay.
May I proceed?
Yeah, I'm just checking something here. Change the view here for myself. Let me just get back to this. Okay, great.
If it helps, I can see her just fine. I don't know if that.
Okay, I don't know what I pushed, but I think we're back. I think it's just a delay. We're back where we should be. All right. Okay, there we go. Okay, so yeah, I think I'll start the screen share just so in case you have documents to put on the screen. And why don't we go ahead with questions? Yes, so go ahead, Attorney Woywood. Wait,
Thank
am I
you.
getting that right now?
Yes.
Woywood, right?
Yep.
Okay, great, thanks.
Thank you, Ms. Kroll. My name's James Woywood. Can you hear me okay?
I can.
Please let me know if at any point in time you can't hear me clearly or if you need me to restate a question.
Okay.
Also, have you seen the document labeled Exhibit 2 to the stipulated facts? It's been on the screen earlier today.
I believe I have a copy of it in front of me. I do.
And is it fair that if I refer to the 2004 amendment or 2004 agreement, can we agree that means the Exhibit 2 to the stipulated facts?
Yes.
And likewise, if you refer to the 2004 amendment or 2004 agreement, you're referring to the Exhibit 2 document?
Yes.
Thank you. Ms. Kroll, you've worked for WPSC since 1999, is that correct?
Yes.
And in that time, you've worked in various positions over the years?
Yes.
Could you tell me when you first learned of the 2004 amendment?
I learned of it when CSI asked for service.
And that was in 2018, is that correct?
Correct.
Prior to 2018, had you ever read the 2004 amendment?
No, not that I recall.
Prior to 2018, had you ever had any discussions about the 2004 amendment?
Not that I recall.
In 2018, did you actually read the agreement?
Yes,
And I imagine since 2018, you've referred to it.
yes,
You are aware that this petition was filed in 2020, correct?
yes,
And were you aware that OEC had filed this petition shortly after it was filed in 2020?
I believe I was made aware at some point in that time frame.
So is it fair to say that some point after the petition was filed by OEC and before the parties submitted a stipulation of facts in 2021, at some point you learned of the existence of the petition?
Yes,
You knew that there was a dispute about what the 2004 amendment meant?
yes,
And is it correct that you did not submit testimony at the time of the stipulated fact submission in 2021?
that is correct.
In fact, you first submitted testimony in this matter in 2023, is that correct?
Yes,
Likewise, you did not submit an affidavit in 2021?
I did not.
Is it correct that from approximately July 2001 through 2005, you held the role of agricultural consultant with WPSC?
That is correct.
Would you mind describing for us your job duties as an agricultural consultant?
I work directly with the farm customers in a designated territory for Wisconsin Public Service on matters of rates and stray voltage and their electrical service needs.
At various points in your testimony, you've referred to the property with a capital P, is that right?
Where are you looking in my testimony?
Sure. I believe that the ALJ is bringing up the direct.
Yes.
If
Excuse me, sorry. I do see it as a capital P in my direct testimony in a number of places.
And I believe you referred to an address in that testimony, but is it fair to say you're referring to that entire 30-acre parcel as it existed all the way back to 2004 when you're referring to property? Is that fair?
So on page 3 of my testimony, I refer to the property located at 2736 East Frontage Road as the property at issue. And yes, that property is part of the 30-acre parcel.
And to be clear, is that the address for the CSI condo storage units?
Yes, it is.
And you're aware that there's a building that's been referred to as a former antique shop to the north?
Yes,
Is that building within that same address? Do you know?
I do not know.
When you refer to property with a capital P, do you intend to include that building to the north, former antique shop?
When the property in question was discussed, it was the entire parcel. And at the time that CSI applied for service, they owned the entire parcel.
And my question is a little bit different. When you use the word property with a capital P in your pre-file testimony, did you intend to encompass the entire property that is highlighted in or surrounded by yellow in exhibits crawl? I believe that is 1, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes,
So in other words, the former antique shop that falls within what you consider the property.
yes.
Okay. Back in that time frame of 2001 to 2005, was that property one of your agricultural accounts?
No, it was not.
Do you recall having any sort of communication with the WPSC customer in 2004 at that building?
No, I did not. I did not cover north of the Brown County line.
Okay. Back in 2004, who was your supervisor at WPSC? If you recall.
I don't recall. I'm sorry.
Was Alan Herman one of your supervisors?
No, he would not have been my supervisor at any point at Wisconsin Public Service.
If you were to create an organizational chart back in 2004, do you know whether Mr. Herman would be considered higher in the organizational chart or lower, relative to your position?
I don't know his exact title back in 2004, but I do know he was in wholesale energy services at that time.
And would you have interacted with Mr. Herman on WPSC business at that time?
I knew him. I didn't maybe interact with him doing any wholesale energy agreements. That was not part of my role.
Did you interact with him for the purposes of your agricultural accounts?
I knew him because he was previously involved in agricultural accounts, but not to ask him direct guidance or supervision.
And during your time as an agricultural consultant, did you have contact with Oconto Electric Cooperative's general manager and CEO?
Not that I recall.
Do you recall having contact with any employee or officer of Oconto Electric Cooperative in that time frame?
I don't recall.
During that time frame, did you negotiate any agreements with Oconto Electric Cooperative?
Not that I recall.
And is it correct that the area covered by the 2004 amendment was outside of the territory that you worked in 2004?
That would be correct. It was not in my territory.
Would you normally work on WPSC business outside of your territory?
I would assist other agricultural consultants if requested.
Other than working on agricultural accounts, would you have worked on any other WPSC business outside of your territory back in 2004?
No, not that I recall.
Did you negotiate the 2004 amendment on behalf of WPS?
No.
Were you present for the negotiation of the 2004 amendment?
No,
Did you draft the 2004 amendment on behalf of WPS?
no,
Were you present when the 2004 amendment was drafted?
no.
Over the course of your career at WPSC, how many territorial agreements have you negotiated on behalf of WPS?
None. That's not within my role or any of my previous roles.
In your time as an employee of WPSC, how many negotiations of territorial agreements have you attended or been present for?
None.
Have you at any point in time assisted in drafting any territorial agreement?
No, none.
Have you assisted in drafting any contract on behalf of WPSC?
So as part of my role as the new service supervisor, I would be signing the service contracts in the past for when they were signed by the customer. Those types of contracts I would have signed or reviewed. But
Signed
those
or
are
reviewed?
pre-drafted contracts.
In other words, you would not have the opportunity to amend that contract yourself?
That is correct.
In other words, you did not draft that contract yourself?
No,
And in other words, you did not conduct negotiations that led to the terms of that contract, is that correct?
that is correct.
You provided an agreement at Exhibit WPSC Crawl 3, which has been referred to as the O'Hara Farms Agreement. Do you recall that exhibit?
I do.
Did you participate in the negotiation of the O'Hara Farms Agreement?
No, one of my coworkers did at that time.
And who is that coworker?
Well, Vern Peterson signed it, but Corey Kupta was the involved in this agreement, is my recollection.
When you say involved, to the best of your recollection, what would that have entailed?
Well, he would have been the agricultural consultant or involved is the agricultural leader, one or the other at the time.
And is it correct, the reason that an agricultural consultant or leader would have been involved is because this involved a specific agricultural account?
Yes,
Did you participate in drafting the O'Hara Farms Agreement?
no,
Do you know whether, oh, strike that. Ms. Kroll, have you, you're not an attorney, correct?
that is correct.
Okay. Have you ever testified in any other capacity, purposes of what a contract means, the meaning, the language of the contract, what that means?
No, I have not testified before on
Is this-
contracts.
Have you testified in other cases on behalf of WPSC?
I have been deposed in other cases on behalf of WPSC.
In general, what was the nature of your involvement as a witness?
Stray voltage litigation.
Again, another agricultural context to that as well.
Yes,
Have you spoken with anyone who was present for negotiation of the 2004 amendment?
not that I know of. I received a call from Oconto Electric and I don't recall from who asking about this. I received the first call. I believe it was in December of 2019, but I don't know if it was Mr. Nolde or someone else.
And that was would that have been the first instance where you learned of a potential dispute here?
Yes.
Other than that call, have you had any discussions with anyone who was present for negotiation of the 2004 amendment?
No.
Have you attempted to speak with anyone in the company who you believed was present for negotiation?
No, I haven't attempted, but from the witnesses of the agreement that I knew of, they were all retired.
And who are you referring to when you say witnesses of the agreement that you knew of who are retired?
Tim Calise is on the agreement. And he is no longer with the company. He is retired from the company, as well as Alvin, because he would have been involved with wholesale and energy services at that time.
What was Al's last name?
Herman.
Oh, you did say, okay.
For the court reporter, it's Herrman.
Thank you.
Did you make any attempt to contact those two retirees?
No, I did not.
And to your knowledge, have you spoken with anyone who drafted the 2004 amendment?
No, I have not. Not to my knowledge.
And have you attempted to speak with anyone who drafted the 2004 amendment?
No, I have not.
And do you have any reason or basis to dispute Mr. Herman's statement that on behalf of WPS, he contacted OEC to clarify pre-existing agreement with respect to existing service?
I'm sorry, can you repeat that?
Sure. Do you have any reason or basis to contest Mr. Herman's statement that, and if you allow me to paraphrase, that he contacted OEC on behalf of WPS regarding the 2004 amendment?
At what point in time, recently or in 2004?
In 2004.
I don't dispute that.
Do you have any reason or basis to dispute that WPSC drafted the 2004 amendment?
I don't have any reason to dispute that. I don't know that.
I believe that we have on the screen at present exhibit WPSC crawl 1. Do you see that on your screen?
Yes. Yes, I can see it.
And at page 3 of your direct testimony, beginning at line 8, you describe this exhibit as being a Google Earth satellite image of the property and surrounding area, showing how they looked in 2021. Is that a correct restatement of your testimony?
Yes, that's what it states in my testimony.
And is that in fact your testimony today?
Yes.
You also testified that WPSC began providing electric service to CSI condo storage units in December 2019. Is that correct?
Yes.
And when you refer to providing service in December 2019, is that a temporary construction service or service to individual storage units or something else? Can you expand?
In 2019, we installed primary wires and service wires to individual storage condo units that were being developed by CSI.
So in other words, some number of condo storage units had already been constructed by December of 2019. Is that correct?
Yes.
And let's crawl, looking at exhibit WPSC crawl 1, does that Google Earth image show any of the condo storage units?
That image does not. I don't know if on the bottom of that image, it has the copyright date from Google Earth. I cannot tell.
Let's zoom in.
I'm sorry.
We're gonna, well, I can
Oh.
zoom in and see.
I can't tell what that date says, but no, they're not in that image.
However, is your
20
testimony,
It appears to be 2021, but it's not very clear, so yeah.
so when you said that exhibit WPSC crawl 1 is a Google Earth satellite image of the property and surrounding areas showing how they looked in 2021, are you relying on your personal knowledge of how the property and surrounding area looked in 2021?
I'm relying on the copyright date of the Google Earth image.
As you sit here today, is it your belief that this image displays the property and to use your testimony, property of the capital P and surrounding area as they looked in 2021?
I would say it would have had some construction on it prior to this. This looks very green space from what I can tell, but I don't know when the satellite image was taken. I know when it's copyrighted, but I don't know the date of the overhead satellite image. So yes, in 2019, there would have been condo storage units in, and in 2021 in this image as constructed.
So is it fair to say that this image, in fact, does not depict how the property with a capital P and surrounding area looked in 2021?
Yes, it should have other buildings on the property in 2021.
Did you personally obtain this image?
I don't recall.
Did you make the yellow rectangle on the image?
I don't recall.
When did you first see this image?
I don't recall that either. I'm sorry. I've seen a lot of overhead images of this property over the last number of years.
Did you yourself print or cause to be placed this yellow rectangle around a portion of property in this image?
I don't recall.
If you didn't do it, do you know who would have?
I don't know. I don't know. I would be speculating. It could have been real estate. It could have been our attorneys. I don't recall.
Okay. Referring back to the 2004 amendment.
That may take me a bit, hang on, off the record. Dude, so the original. Might be in there, but. I think this is the version from the petition, but it should be the same.
And we can go to the first page of the exhibit.
Of the, I'm sorry.
Exhibit 2. So I guess it's the cover sheet. Yeah.
Okay, oh yeah. Okay.
Ms. Kroll, do you see the 2004 amendment, the top page on your screen?
Yes.
I'm going to direct your attention to the second paragraph, last sentence. Attachment B is a map of the general area, including the west and east frontage roads and intersecting roads referenced in attachment A. Do you see that statement?
I do.
Have you ever seen the map referred to as attachment B?
Oh, I don't recall.
Have you ever referred to the map known as attachment B in preparation of your testimony?
No,
Did you refer to it in preparation of any exhibits?
no, I referred to attachment A.
And to your knowledge, have you spoken with anyone that has actually seen the attachment B map?
I don't know, but I have.
Do you have any reason to believe that the attachment B map contained a yellow box or any other sort of box on the east side of the frontage road, like the one displayed in your exhibit?
I don't know. I don't recall ever seeing it.
So if you don't recall seeing it, do you have any reason to believe, that it contained an outline similar to that contained in your exhibit?
I have no idea what it contains.
Yeah, I'm gonna object that she's answered this. She hasn't seen this exhibit, and I'd even offer to stipulate, as we did in circuit court, that neither party saw attachment B.
That was my last question on it, so I guess I would just ask that the answer stand.
Okay. So I just want to interject. It's so did the commission approve this amendment?
Yes, Your Honor.
Has anyone asked if the commission has a copy of the full agreement with the attachment A and B?
I really can't answer that.
We did.
Predecessor counsel.
Anyone here at the hearing asked the commission for a copy of the full agreement?
We did not, Your Honor.
And while I've been involved, I have not.
Okay.
If I could direct your attention to exhibit WPSC crawl 2.
Yeah.
Just give me a minute here to. Crawl 2. Oh, there's more. I thought there was more. Okay. Have to reduce that a little bit. It'd be harder to read, but there we go. Okay, go ahead.
Ms. Kroll, did you compile the information that's contained within this exhibit?
I did.
And it contains a series of columns that include, and I'll refer to as a second column, of addresses.
Yes.
And that's a total of 6 addresses.
I have 5. Right. 1, 2, 4, 5.
You have a total of 5
Maybe if,
addresses.
Your Honor, if you're controlling and you could scroll down for her.
Oh, yeah, sure. All right, I'm just going to reduce it for the purposes of counting the numbers of.
Oh, thank you.
There we go. I think that.
You are correct. Sorry.
Okay, thank you. And is it fair to assume, for example, where I see 5696A Steinkraus, Steinkrause, is that in the same building as 5696B Steinkraus?
Based on WPS mapping, they're actually separate entities, as I recall.
When you say separate entities, are you talking about the whatever structure is at the address, or are you talking about the occupant of that structure?
Separate buildings or metering locations. Typically, WPS would not put 2 metering points. Well, let's strike that. I'm trying to do this from memory on the map, but I believe they were separate buildings, or one was a billboard and one was a building, but I don't recall exactly for that particular address, but I do know there was 2 metering locations on that site.
When you prepared this exhibit, do you actually refer to a map or GIS software or something like that?
I referred to our Navigate software, which has our mapping of our electrical services.
Does that also include things like, roadways?
Yes,
So you could see where each of these addresses is relative to, for example, East Frontage Road. Is that correct?
yes.
Could you please identify for me which of these addresses in your exhibit are located on the east side of East Frontage Road?
I believe they're all on the west side.
Let's scroll. Earlier today, we addressed stipulation as to the number of units at the at CSI, number of storage units being a total of 81. Did you hear that discussion?
Yes,
And currently 44 units receive electric service from WPSC, is that correct?
yes,
And is it correct that when an individual owner acquires or purchases a unit, if they desire to have electric service, they contact you to make that happen? You being WPSC?
yes, they would contact Wisconsin Public Service for changing service.
And at that point, WPSC would go out to the unit and install a electric meter?
If it's an existing metering location, yes. If it needs a meter set,
So maybe you could clarify for me, if there's 81 units currently constructed, there's 44 that currently receive service. My math is correct. That's 37 approximately units that currently do not receive electric service. Are you with me?
yes,
And if I were to purchase the 45th unit, tomorrow and said I would, and it currently does not have electric service, and I said I would like electric service here, what would have to happen in order for that unit to receive service?
if a customer would like to receive service of one of the condo storage units, they would have to apply for service. They would have to tell Wisconsin Public Service if they want electricity and or natural gas, as we provide both at this parcel. And they would tell us their amperage needed, and then they would go into the designer's queue to get designed. And then from there, an estimate to provide that service is prepared. And if there is cost involved, then the customer would have to pay that cost. And then once it's ready for service, as if they've installed their metering, their meter base, their meter pedestal, it's also called, then once that's ready and inspected, WPS would install a meter and provide service.
And all those things that you described, did that have to happen for each of those 44 units that currently receive service?
Yes,
And if tomorrow the remaining 37 wanted to receive electric service, that same process would play out, is that correct?
that is correct. That is our new service installation process.
So the 44, well, I guess if we assume just for today that those 44 meters represent approximately 44 customers. Those 44 customers have already paid to WPSC those costs that you just described.
If there was any cost associated, based on our tariffs, the customers are allowed so many feet of allowance for their service. So they don't all have to pay. It just depends on how far we need to extend that service from the primary transformer that is existing, that was already installed.
Do you know if that allowance applied to any of the 44 units?
Yes, it would. We have to administer our tariffs equally.
Do you know how many
I do not know how many had to pay.
of the remaining units without service? Do you know if any of those would be eligible for that allowance?
They would all be eligible.
Strike that, or let me rephrase it. Do you know of the remaining units, whether the distance that would be covered to WPSC's transformer is within the allowance?
I don't know that at this point. I don't have their distances.
If the commission were to request WPSC to identify all costs that have been incurred by each unit, setting aside the monthly billing for usage, but all costs to connect, the things you described earlier, would WPSC be able to provide the commission with that information?
They would be able to provide the property accounting for the facilities that have been installed.
And I presume WPSC would also be able to identify the costs to WPSC of the facilities that it installed on its side of the meter in order to serve CSI units.
I believe so, yes.
Scroll at direct WPSC crawl 10. You state, quote, second, in the absence of any agreement, parentheses, or if the 2004 agreement is ambiguous, close parentheses, both parties have facilities within 500 feet of CSI, so the customer's choice should prevail, and Mr. Nimmer reiterates his preference for WPSC in his direct testimony, close quote. I believe that the screen will be scrolling to page 10 as well. Do you see that testimony at line 7, beginning at line 7?
Yes, I do.
Okay. And is that still your testimony?
Yes, it is.
Is it still your testimony that if the 2004 agreement is found to be ambiguous, that customer choice should prevail?
Yes.
Is it also true that at Sir Rebuttal WPSC call 5, you stated, quote, my direct testimony does not claim that customer choice applies above any other consideration, including in particular the plain language of the 2004 agreement?
Where in my rebuttal?
We're at page 5, line 11.
Line 11. Okay.
This call, isn't it in fact correct that you do contend that customer choice applies in this case if the commission finds the language is ambiguous?
Yes, I do state that choices is part of the determination for service.
Ms. Kroll, your testimony was that customer choice should prevail.
I'm sorry, there was a chime there, that customer choice.
Should prevail. Is that still your testimony in the event the 2004 agreement is ambiguous?
Yes.
And what is your basis for saying that customer choice should apply if the 2004 agreement is ambiguous?
Basically, because it's the customer's choice within the 500 feet is my understanding of the rules that govern the service franchise agreements.
So based on your understanding of the rules that govern service franchise agreements, based on that, you believe if the 2004 agreement is ambiguous, then customer choice applies. Is that fair characterization of your testimony?
Yes.
Have you ever been called to testify about what those rules mean in any other case?
No, I have not.
Is it part of your job at WPSC to interpret those rules on behalf of WPSC?
It is not, but it is my previous roles, role or position in that position of new service to determine if we are allowed to serve this particular customer in our franchise or amongst the boundary, and ask questions where needed.
And specifically, what rules are you referring to? Are you referring to WPSC rules, statutory rules, administrative code rules?
WPS and franchise agreement.
Franchise agreement meaning
Meaning, for example, if a customer applied for new service and they were along our boundary with a different utility as well, we would review if we were allowed to serve that customer or if we needed to send them to the franchise that they needed to request service from.
So in those circumstances, you would do your best assessment of what the rules mean or require in a particular circumstance.
Yes,
And it would be on a case-by-case basis.
correct.
But you've never, for example, created any sort of guidance document for anyone else at WPSC about what those rules mean or require. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Is it correct that in your direct testimony, when you compared rates available from WPSC and OEC, you relied upon the CG1 rate? Is that correct?
Yes,
What page are you on for testimony?
That's going to
page 11.
Thank you.
And that's also exhibit, I believe, 6. Not that you need, I'm not going to ask about the exhibit, but it does relate to it.
Okay, thanks.
Are all 44 of those units that take service on the CG1 tariff?
I don't recall exactly what rates each one is on.
Is it possible that some units are on a rate other than CG1?
It would be doubtful.
I'm asking if it's possible.
It's possible if they were using it for personal use, it could be on a residential rate and not a commercial rate.
Other than residential or commercial, is there any other tariff you you can think of that might apply to the storage units?
No.
And have you submitted the WPSC residential rate as part of this record?
I did not. I assumed the majority were under a commercial rate.
I could direct your attention to page 8 of the direct testimony that's up on the screen. Do you see that image labeled Figure 1 map of WPSC's facilities?
Yes.
Is every are all 44 meters that have been installed at the storage units, are they actually depicted in Figure 1?
I'm not sure, because there's new units, being added. I don't know if I had all 44 on this depiction.
And does Figure 1 show the three-phase service to the former antique shop as it existed back in 2004?
It shows the existing three-phase service at the point labeled 35W10.
Do you have any reason to believe that I guess that point of service has changed since 2004, meaning 35W10?
I don't know that it's changed.
I just have one more moment, please.
Sure.
Directing your attention to your rebuttal testimony.
Yes.
Page 1.
Yes.
Starting at line 14, I believe you're referring to crawl exhibit 2 and 3. State, however, it is not my position that the significance of either of these exhibits should be elevated over the 2004 agreement itself, which WPSC has consistently said is unambiguous. Do you see that testimony?
Yes.
Is that a correct recitation of your testimony?
Yes.
And is it correct that exhibits 2 and 3 were prepared in connection with your testimony? Is that accurate?
Yes.
And you state that WPSC has consistently said the 2004 agreement is unambiguous. And is that still your position?
Yes.
you're aware that in the commission's final decision in this docket that the commission stated, quote, the commission agrees with WPSC that the word customer, and that's in quotes, as used in the 2004 amendment, equates to customer location.
I don't recall that.
If you could point her to testimony, I think. that'd be
Yeah.
helpful.
Well,
Where are you?
let me ask you this.
Right.
Is it fair to, when you say unambiguous, what exactly do you mean by that? Is it,
When referring to the 2004 agreement, it's talking about a customer's property.
so is it fair to say that WPSC is maintaining the position that use of customer in the 2004 agreement equates to customer location? Is that fair characterization?
Customer property, yes.
No other questions?
Your Honor, I just have some very brief redirect.
Any questions from commission staff?
No questions, Your Honor.
All right. So wait, before we begin with redirect, I just had something to clarify. There was this the figure on surrebuttal. I think it was in surrebuttal. Under indirect, Kroll 8. That's I guess if you can tell me, witness Kroll, about what date and time is depicted in that figure, what point in time, if you know the date of this in terms of the progress of the construction of the facility.
I don't know when I pulled that image exactly.
And that's a schematic that Wisconsin Public Service Corporation created for its business purposes, or was that created just for this this case?
No, this is a snippet of our Navigate software that has all of our wires and transformers and customer locations in it.
Okay.
But I do not recall exactly what date I pulled this from, so I can't say if it depicts all 44 existing meters or not.
Okay, so there may be more there may be additional service to individual meters. For example, like if you look at a one of the green boxes that looks like there's no service to it. If you look at the new version of this, or maybe the most up-to-date version, you may see a red line and a meter depicted on that green service to that green box. Is that what you would be referring to?
It is possible, yes.
It's possible. Okay. You know, why don't we get an update of that image so that we can get something, a snapshot as most up to date as we can, and let's mark that Kroll 7. And I don't know if it looks like we may not have depicted the entire property because it seems to cut off on that right margin. If we just make sure we have the full, the extent of the full property in the figure as well.
Okay, thank you, Your Honor.
Yeah, so I'm just gonna put that on my notes that we're marking that. So we'll mark that. I'm sorry, Kroll 7. And I think I said Kroll 8 before. That's why I gotta write these things down. Okay. And this would be
Judge,
yes.
you're using the definition of property.
Okay, so okay, yeah, let me be more specific and maybe easier. So if we looked at the exhibit Kroll 1, and this is another question I had just generally about this exhibit, which relates to clarifying the Kroll, what should be depicted in Kroll 7. So I just want to be sure there's a lot of land that's presented in this exhibit. And I was just curious, the area, let's just use the word area at issue, is only the one that's outlined in yellow, that's bordered in yellow. Is that, am I correct with that?
And Judge, it might might be useful to also incorporate or refer back to exhibits attached to the stipulated facts. So for example, exhibit 3 to the stipulated facts, I think that if we were to overlay the schematic of those units that are actually drawn out, it would probably be pretty close to figure 1, where figure 1 appears to be cut off. And then I believe that there's additional property there to the west that they contemplate further expansion.
Okay, so is this what you're referring to? I don't know how it's going to look on your screen because it's.
Yeah, I mean, I tried to count up the number of boxes that were in figure 1 and I came over 70. But I suspect it's what that's showing is probably pretty close to that, core of units on the left.
Okay. So we don't know the date of this depiction, do we?
It has a print date of 2/19/2021 in the lower right-hand corner. So given that the number of units has increased since the stipulation was executed, it probably looks different. Whether or not there's that means additional services. Well, obviously that means additional services. It just, yeah, kind of speculative exactly where.
Okay, well, I guess my first question really is to the witness at this point, and that's any area outside of the yellow highlight, the yellow border, is any of that area at issue in this case?
Not that I'm aware of.
Okay, because I just didn't understand why there was so much land being depicted on the exhibit. I just threw me off. So it's just inside the yellow highlight. That's what's at issue, regardless of how it's being the current state of development.
So I can add that the reason that this has more around it, it gives the roads that were called out, or at least one of the roads to the south that was called out in the description of the agreement.
Okay, all right, thanks. Okay, so that's just the first question I had. And then in terms of so the entire yellow bordered property, if we could have the entire area bordered in yellow, if that could be depicted in Kroll 7 with the most up-to-date depiction of service being provided to the customer or customers as shown in figure 1 of the Kroll Direct. I think that's what I'm trying to find. Does that make sense to you, Attorney Rogers? Do you see where I'm?
Yes, and this is the entire 30 acres formerly owned by Ms. Sangstock, correct?
That would be my understanding. I didn't want to be that. I didn't want to give all those words, but yes, I think that's what I'm trying to get at. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So, yeah, go ahead.
And we didn't request this, so I'm certainly not going to insist, but delineations of lot 1 and 2 might assist the commission's adjudication of the case.
I believe that's addressed in stipulated facts, but let me consult that.
Did you say
Or-
delineations of lot one and two?
I mean, to see if we're gonna put together or request a map, it might as well also show where the line between lot 1 and 2
Okay,
is.
okay, yeah, that's fine. Let's put that in. And that's if you, well, I guess I was looking for a printout on your navigate. Am I getting that right? The navigate system. I don't know if it can.
Yes, so you can see it there. It does already do that.
Okay, so if you could just add the label lot 1 and lot 2. That would
Okay.
be helpful. I see it provides the line, but perhaps having the words lot 1 and lot 2 on there would help. And I think that would suffice. There's some other possibilities with this, but I think the best way to depict what's going on at the present moment is just to get an update from the WPS system. And then yeah, that's fine. Okay. So if possible, if you could, well, let me ask, how long do you think it would take to get an exhibit like that created and filed?
I can do it yet today. I
Okay.
can get it.
All right.
I can get it to our attorneys today, and then they can file it. I don't know how
So,
fast that can
Yeah,
happen.
just stick to our current deadlines, 3 working days after the hearing. So if you just stick to that, I didn't want to, if you needed more time, we'd give you that, but if you think you can do it, that's great. Assuming we get out of here today. So
Yeah, assuming we
yeah.
get done today, I will.
Yeah.
Be able to do it yet today.
And I think that's all I was. Oh yeah. So there's one other question I had. I don't know if you can answer this. I'll admit this is going to be out of the blue. So I'm going to display the current version of Google Earth. Because there's just one specific thing which actually may not be relevant, but I want to make sure we cover our bases here. So if I can find it on my screen here. Yeah, okay. So this is current version on Google Earth of, looks like the antique store, the what an updated view of the storage units. But just north of the store, there's other buildings that kind of look like storage units. And I was just curious if you knew if those are being serviced and if Pub Service is providing service to those buildings, or Oconto Electric. Any idea?
I don't know for sure. I'm just trying to look at my map from
Mhm.
Navigate.
Yeah.
In my direct testimony. And they are not mapped as Wisconsin Public Services service to them from the map I have in my direct testimony.
Okay. All right, so that's all I had. Let's have it some redirect. Any questions?
Yes, thank you, Your Honor.
Okay.
Ms. Kroll, does part of your current role or any previous roles involve receiving applications for new service from customers?
Yes, I was the supervisor of the new service team for about 4 years.
And does part of that role involve determining whether WPSC can serve that customer?
Yes, it would have been mine and my team's responsibility to determine if we had service to service them there, or if it was within our boundaries to service them there.
Does that role ever involve reviewing territorial agreements?
It would of the supervisor, not of one of my employees.
Does WPSC have facilities within 500 feet of CSI?
Yes,
And are you going to leave it to your attorneys to fight about when the customer choice rule applies?
yes.
No further questions.
Okay, great. All right. Thank you very much. You're excused.
Okay.
So anything else we need to handle while we're here?
I believe
Go ahead.
one, so the scheduling order does not have deadlines for briefs. And
Okay, you're right.
Attorney Rogers, I apologize. Attorney Woywood and I discussed this very briefly. But I believe we have a schedule to propose.
Okay, go ahead.
So I think we would be comfortable submitting, everyone having initial briefs due on June 28th and replies to July 12th. Attorney Woywood, did I restate that accurately?
I believe so. I'm just looking for the email. But yes, June 28th, July 12th.
Okay, any opinion of staff on that?
I'm just taking a moment
Hmm.
to consult with staff. I think that will work for us.
Okay.
Just fine. If it works for you, Judge, I'm not sure.
No, that works for me. We can order that. I'll put that in our electronic calendar. And yeah, so that should work fine. Anything else?
Thank you, Your Honor. Nothing else from WPS?
And just before we log off, we will be resubmitting the entirety of the stipulated facts document, including the exhibits, or what's the or just the facts portion.
Yeah, let's just revise the stipulated facts document, just include everything with and the update with including the update to the numbers. So we'll just have one version of that document.
Okay.
to refer to.
Okay.
And just to avoid confusion, Judge, should the date should be updated on the stipulated facts, I suppose.
Yes, yeah, I think that would be. I think we'd want to do that. Yes, we'd have to do
I was
that.
I was
Um,
contemplating it, and I'll talk to Ms. Zank about this. I was contemplating even Attorney Rogers, like adding if we took what exists now, but adding a secondary signature page that says, acknowledging the updates in today's date, and then the council who, just making clear what happened in the record.
We're getting into maybe we should file an amendment to the stipulated. No.
Well, either way is
2023
fine.
amendment.
Yeah, either way is fine with me. If you want to amend it and then just include the stipulation itself, and just label it amended stipulation. I guess my only problem, my problem with that is people may pick up the original. The original exists on Earth and at the date it was filed. So I think it's clear that that's the one that was we were originally dealing with. So if you want to title this amended stipulated facts, but just refile the entire thing with an updated signature page, that may be the cleanest way of.
We could always add a footnote or something to noting the
existence
genesis
of
of it.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think that makes sense. I would ask if you could circulate that just so I can take a quick look and make sure it isn't confusing to the record. Not that I would veto it, but just it's a little tricky.
Yeah, and in terms of the pub service exhibit, the Kroll 7, if you want to pass that amongst yourselves first, just so we can and then filing it, you can just email me that there's an agreement to the filing. If there is, hopefully there will be, and I'll just accept it without any further motions or stipulations. Just email me the fact that parties and staff agree to its contents, just to streamline that. but yeah, you will just have a pub service if you can, just give everyone a preview before you file. That's probably all we really need.
Yep. Will do.
Okay, great. Okay, anything else? All right, well, thanks very much. We're adjourned.